Hey, I'm Blair Best. It's Friday here on The Story, and tonight, a unique announcement from the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office involving sex workers and a website that's become so notorious for prostitution that the government has shut it down. Plus, progressive members of Portland City Council unleash on Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem following her surprise visit to the Rose City this week. But first, the latest on the deployment of National Guard troops to Portland. What you need to know about a looming court decision and what deployment could look like. It's our big story tonight. Okay, we begin with a live look at the ICE building in South Portland tonight. There are a dozen or so demonstrators in costume. There's music and occasional dancing, while federal agents are watching from the roof of the building. Oregon leaders and frankly many across the nation waiting with bated breath for a ruling from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to determine if the National Guard can be deployed to Portland. That ruling is expected any time now. Meanwhile, the rhetoric surrounding the city of Portland among our country's leaders in D.C. continues. We have all of that to get to and more. But first, I was outside the ICE building for several hours today, talking with immigrant rights advocates who have been there daily, along with the protesters dressed in costumes, spreading a message of their own. It's Friday morning outside the ICE building in South Portland.
What I wanted to do through this was an act of defiance, using classical music as a form of resistance.
Sus derechos. Know your rights.
For another day.
So we do Monday through Friday, 8 to 12.
Immigrant rights advocates wait outside the entrance, where up to roughly 12 immigrants a day go inside for annual check-ins.
We are seeing families separated.
This volunteer, who didn't want to share her name, tells me if an immigrant doesn't come out of the ICE building within 2 hours, she calls their emergency contact and legal partners.
It's really critical that we try to get assistance as fast as possible because this is a processing center and it's a place that they have to be processed before they're sent to a detention center, so Tacoma. So this is one of the points where we have the strongest opportunity to advocate for the release, which is why we're here.
Meanwhile,
I'm out here trying to, make people feel less stressed out.
People dress in costumes to spread their message.
I'm the cow here to support immigrants against cowards.
It doesn't look like it's a war-ravaged Portland like Trump says.
He admits the tone shifts at night.
Like more yelling, more agitated.
Last night, Portland police arrested 2 people connected to the protests and booked them in the Multnomah County Jail, one for harassment and the other, 36-year-old Thomas Allen, on an outstanding warrant. Portland police say they've arrested Allen 3 times at the protests. We talked with him Monday.
I got arrested last night. I got arrested 2 nights before that. We're the first ones to go to jail. They don't even try to go after the people that started. They just go after the people that have to finish it. I'm not gonna stop coming back out here. I'm gonna come out here every day until either the National Guard comes out here, the feds come out here, or these people get sick of seeing our faces out here.
Okay, Allen was arrested last night because he was previously ordered to stay 200 feet away from the ICE building. This morning, a judge released him from jail, again telling Allen to stay at least 200 feet away from the building. We'll see if it sticks this time. As of today, Portland police has made a total of 47 arrests in the South Waterfront since the nightly protests began in early June. Meanwhile, the feds told us yesterday that they've made 179 arrests around the ICE building since June. 31 of those arrested by the feds are actually facing federal charges, meaning fewer than 1 in 5 federal arrests around the ICE building actually lead to federal charges. As we mentioned earlier, a ruling from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is expected any time now on whether it will overturn the lower court's decision temporarily blocking the deployment of the National Guard troops in Portland. Okay, Kyle Aboshi is near the ICE facility for us tonight. Kyle, the hearing ahead of the looming decision was Thursday morning, so get us up to speed on what happened.
And Blair, before we get into serious matters, if you'll indulge me for just 1 second, let me set the scene because it is a festive scene out here. There are a lot of costumes, a lot of music, some dancing, in stark contrast to the federal agents that are on top of the building watching all of these people in costume tonight. As to the serious question that you asked about the Ninth Circuit, they did have that hearing yesterday. About an hour long, the three-judge panel peppered the lawyers involved. The appellate court considering whether to overturn a lower court's order temporarily blocking the National Guard from coming into Portland. The state of Oregon arguing that President Trump does not have the authority to deploy the National Guard because it's not a rebellion and also is not needed because local law enforcement has the situation under control. The feds counter with the president does have the right to do so and needs to do so.
Okay, so Kyle, if the court decides to throw out the temporary restraining order, walk us through what we expect to happen next.
Well, in theory, that clears the way for the deployment of the National Guard, and we know they're already staged. According to the governor, there are roughly 200 at Camp Rylea out in Warrenton of the Oregon National Guard, and then at Camp Withacombe in Happy Valley, there are roughly 200 California National Guard ready to go. We've been told their mission essentially is to protect federal buildings, primarily the immigration office here in South Portland, but what that looks like is not yet clear.
And as we wait that ruling here at home, we understand there's been a development in Illinois regarding the president's plan to deploy the National Guard to Chicago.
Indeed, a significant development. Yesterday, a federal judge in the Northern District of Illinois issued a 14-day temporary restraining order blocking the deployment of the National Guard, similar to what we've seen here in Oregon. Judge April Perry saying the National Guard, quote, only add fuel to the fire that the defendants themselves, meaning the federal government, have started, end quote. The White House overnight blasting that ruling, saying, quote, President Trump has exercised his lawful authority to protect federal officers and assets, end quote, referring to the ongoing immigration raids in Chicago that have prompted a series of protests. The Trump administration is appealing that ruling, similar to what has happened here in the state of Oregon, although Illinois is obviously a few days behind in that legal process.
Kyle, if the judges here in the Ninth Circuit rule a certain way, will that set some kind of precedent for the case in Illinois?
Probably not, in all likelihood. I mean, these are separate cases. This is specific to the temporary restraining order that was issued here in Oregon. So in all likelihood, treated as two very different cases.
Okay, Kyle Aboshi in South Portland for us tonight. Kyle, thank you. Meanwhile, President Trump held a cabinet meeting yesterday at the White House where he got an update on the situation in Portland from the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, following her surprise visit to the Rose City earlier this week. And she doubled down on her idea to send more federal troops here, painting a less than bleak picture of her meetings with state and local leaders.
And met with the governor, met with the mayor, met with the chief of police and the superintendent of the highway patrol. They are all lying and disingenuous and dishonest people because as soon as you leave the room, then they make the exact opposite response. So we're looking at new facilities to purchase. They're in Portland too, and we're going to double down. And I told them if they didn't meet our demands for safety and security on the streets and work with us, then we were going to bring in more federal law enforcement.
Now, considering the Trump administration has positioned itself as a champion of law and order, the comments from top officials going after local and state law enforcement in Oregon are interesting, to say the least. In response to Noem's comments yesterday, the Portland Police Bureau told us Chief Bob Day is a 35-year law enforcement veteran who came out of retirement out of a deep commitment to help lead the Portland Police Bureau through this period of renewal for our city. He continues to serve with integrity, honesty, and genuine curiosity. Governor Tina Kotek told us it is clear from Secretary Noem's continued false narrative about what's happening in Portland that the Trump administration has no interest in the facts, no interest in public safety, and that we cannot take them at their word. I suppose the mayor's decision to hold the line in response to the Trump administration's lies and aggressive tactics. And the mayor's office told us yesterday that they've received no indication the feds intend to buy more property in Portland, adding, the federal government's actions in Portland are deeply disturbing. They undermine local authority, erode public trust, and escalate tensions rather than resolve them. Secretary Noem didn't stop there with her comments yesterday, further criticizing Mayor Keith Wilson, with President Trump also weighing in.
I asked the mayor that himself. He said that Portland was perfectly safe, a beautiful city, no problems. And I said, well, why did you clear the streets for me today then and build out a 4-block radius to make sure I could get in and out of here? And these people on the street screaming death to ICE. There's graffiti that says Molotovs melt ice. We have the guillotines. We're going to use them.
Portland's almost different. It's like anarchists.
It is. It really is.
You know, it's really different than a lot
It's
of the
awful.
others. This is a sick situation, but those are anarchists. Those are people that want to overthrow government. They're really degenerates.
Yeah.
And we're finding out who is supplying all of those beautiful signs and everything else.
Meanwhile, some Democratic members of Oregon's congressional delegation are demanding answers about how people are being treated inside the South Portland ICE facility. It comes after Senators Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley, along with Representatives Suzanne Bonamici, Maxine Dexter, and Andrea Salinas, visited the building a few weeks ago. The group says they've received conflicting information and their questions haven't been fully answered. So they wrote to the ICE field office in Seattle, Secretary Kristi Noem, and Attorney General Pam Bondi. When it comes to ICE, they said they're concerned about the lack of oversight and accountability of ICE agents, writing, there are multiple instances of agents breaking car windows and ripping people from their vehicles, holding knives to people's necks, and shoving bystanders to the ground. They also say that ICE agents wearing masks and hiding their badges is a safety concern, and that they've heard that training is being done too quickly. The group asked DHS Secretary Kristi Noem about the way protesters outside the ICE facility are treated, especially when it comes to the use of tear gas and other munitions like pepper balls, which we saw over the weekend. They wrote, more than a dozen advocates outside the facility have reported unprovoked attacks by Homeland Security Police and FPS officers, leaving people with large bruises, chemical burns, and lingering pain. The Portland Police Bureau reported that federal police shoved, hit, and used chemical spray on people outside the facility when, according to multiple witnesses, there was no physical threat to officers. We heard the same last night from protesters.
The most aggression that I've seen is from an ICE officer. You know, the only time I felt unsafe is because there was an ICE officer pushing me out of the way, pushing other people, arresting people for doing absolutely nothing, you know, following their orders, as unlawful as they may be, still following and then getting arrested for it. That's the only time I've ever felt unsafe.
So the lawmakers asked, what type of munitions are used against people collected outside of the McAdam facility? Please provide a detailed description. And what criteria is used to determine whether or not to use munitions against people outside the facility? How do you decide what tools to use at different times of day? Who makes those determinations? They asked Attorney General Pam Bondi about due process, saying it's currently being eroded, writing, the U.S. Constitution guarantees the right to due process, and the law allows the right to an attorney. On what grounds are you denying counsel to individuals in custody? Okay, no word yet on if the Oregon delegation has received any kind of response. And local elected leaders are not holding back regarding their thoughts on the ICE building controversy, including two of the more progressive members of Portland City Council, who went on CNN this week to blast DHS Secretary Kristi Noem.
You know, I never thought that renowned puppy killer Kristi Noem would be so afraid of protesters wearing frog costumes and chicken costumes, but here we are. Our city provided very classic dignitary protections for dignitaries that come into our city. It was nothing out of the norm. We were not hiding anything. The reason she didn't see anything on the ground is because everything here is under control. People are exercising their right to free speech as they are allowed to under the Constitution, if that still matters. But no, nothing is out of control. There is no terrorism happening here. I think that they are just a very scared people.
When Kristi Noem visits our city to lie to the American people about the conditions on the ground, make no mistake, what she's faced with are protesters who are dressed in frog suits, chicken suits, who are frankly mocking her presence because that's the level of respect that she deserves. This administration will not be able to cow Portlanders into submitting to his deeply undemocratic program, and I'm very proud of Portlanders for standing up against him.
And you can count on KGW to be there every step of the way as this story continues to develop day by day. Make sure to download the KGW News app on your phone to get alerts in real time. If you ever miss an episode of the story, you can find replays on our TV app, KGW Plus, or over on the KGW YouTube page. Okay, coming up next on the story, we explain today's unique announcement by the Multnomah DA's office regarding sex workers and a notorious website. The DA is not announcing any kind of criminal charges. This all has to do with money. Details when the story returns. Well, now to the latest in the criminal trial of a former Westland doctor whose case KGW has been following for years. Today, David Farley pleaded not guilty to 11 felonies related to sex abuse. It was the first time he had faced charges years after the alleged abuse of his former patients. According to court documents, Farley's case dates back to at least 2009. In 2020, the Oregon Medical Board revoked Farley's state medical license. 2 years later, his case was put before a grand jury who decided not to indict him. Patients suspect the grand jury didn't see all the evidence and blamed the Westland Police Department's handling of the case. An independent review of the case found several errors, so in 2024, the Clackamas County District Attorney urged the Oregon Attorney General to review things, leading to charges and today's hearing. The judge set Farley's bail at $500,000. In addition to this criminal case, more than 170 women have joined a civil lawsuit against Farley and several hospital groups, seeking around $1 billion in damages. The Multnomah County District Attorney's Office is wanting to get the word out, saying there's money available for sex workers who were trafficked on a website used mainly for prostitution. The DA's office says the Justice Department is using seized money and assets to help victims heal after shutting down Backpage.com and its sister website, City X Guide, back in 2018. Investigators considered Backpage one of the largest online prostitution sites in the world up until it went dark. During today's announcement, the DA brought up a sex trafficking survivor who took a moment to acknowledge how the local approach has changed.
I was trafficked for 6 years. When I came out, there wasn't any sort of help. We have so much to offer. We have so many services. We support victims, survivors. If they want to be in it, they don't want to be in it. That's what where my heart is. But for the people who buy and sell, I don't think that, I'm glad that their money is going back into the hands of those that they did that to, they harmed. Multnomah County really addresses this issue the way I see fit. They definitely go after the buyer and after the trafficker.
There's an online form where you can file. It's called backpageremission.com, and the deadline to submit is February 2nd, 2026. We'll have that link on our website, kgw.com. Well, it's a critical resource for the Portland Metro. And today, we got to stop by the new filtration plant in development for the Bull Run watershed. The project was halted in February thanks to a challenge by people who live near the site. But construction started back up recently, meaning hundreds of people are back at work.
So currently on site today, there's about 350 people. About 200 of those are trades folks that are actually doing the construction work, representing a number of trades. I think there's over 15 different types of trades and trade unions.
Now, construction of this facility started last year after the city was given a September 2027 deadline by the federal government to build a water treatment plant. Officials say not only will the facility ensure Portland can continue having clean water into the future, it will help the drinking water system be more resilient to natural disasters. Currently, when there's a wildfire nearby, crews have to shut down the water system and go to the backup supply.
We did a study where we took burned material, surface oils from multiple fires in the Pacific Northwest, and we ran it through our miniature treatment plant, and we demonstrated how we could remove the material that we would see from a fire. We could physically remove it from our water and continue to serve great water to the city of Portland.
Crews are also installing a pipeline that is more earthquake resistant. Well, coming up next on the story, the Portland Trailblazers are back in action tonight at the Moda Center, albeit just preseason play. But we'll take you outside the arena to show you something new that fans will see all season long. That's next when the story returns. Well, in just a few minutes, the Trailblazers tip off against the Sacramento Kings at the Moda Center. There's a live picture of it there. It's Portland's preseason home opener as they gear up for upcoming regular season play. Fans making their way to the game tonight pass by something new outside the stadium. What were once blank retaining walls are now pieces of art meant to represent the ethnic backgrounds of the people who painted them. Devin Haskins has the story.
Outside Moda Center, bright colors bloom across the bare walls. Artists tracing their heritage with each stroke of a brush or hiss of a spray can.
This is my actual first one on a wall.
Layers of colors represent their culture.
As a Plains Indian, roses represent resilience, growth, beauty, strength.
Malcolm Weaselboy is a member of the Chippewa Cree tribe. Raised in Montana, he moved to Portland when he was 10 years old.
I remember when this was the Rose Garden, I used to come here and watch monster trucks, watch Blazers game, watch the Portland Fire.
The Portland Trailblazers asked him and 6 other artists to interpret what roses mean to their roots.
You can cut a rose down, but a couple months later and come back twice as strong.
Malcolm jumped at the chance.
It means so much being able to, and just right in front of the Moda Center it's a huge blessing, and I'm grateful to be part of it.
The art project, painted on what the organization calls the Wiggle Wall.
It is the Wiggle Wall, yeah. It's a little wiggle wall.
Is called Roots to Roses.
Roots to Roses really came to life to celebrate Portland's rich diversity and resilience within its communities, highlighting the historical ties and roots and cultural blossoms just like roses.
Just feet away from Malcolm, Christian Tejas uses spray paints.
I believe the Latin American culture, Mexican in specific, we are color.
Bright colors representing his Hispanic culture.
So it's showcasing a bunch of roses made a part of different colors as everybody are.
He, like Malcolm, was excited to share his story.
So when I have the chance to put my artwork in a place that there's a lot of people going to see it, I feel the need to kind of present something that make me proud.
And for Malcolm, he says it's helping him feel more confident.
And I've always been kind of self-conscious about my art, so this is my opportunity to put myself out there and become more of an artist.
I love that. It's so beautiful. That's the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Timbers 360 is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 on our TV app, KGW+, which you can download for free right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. In the meantime, have a great weekend. I'll see you right back here Monday night at 6:30.